New comic book days here again already. Let's take a look at what's on the pull list. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and this is the pull list. This is my weekly video series where I take a look at the books coming out this new comic book day. I'll tell you what's on my pull list, what's on the chopping block, and give you some other books that are on the radar that you might be interested in as well. This time I'm taking a look at books coming out Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. That's right. We're already almost to February. That is crazy. But a lot of books coming out this week. Not a lot of like ongoing stories, but we're getting a lot of one-shots, a lot of annuals, a lot of anthology type things. And there's a lot of them on the pull list this week. So let's go ahead and start this list off with the book that I am most excited for. And that is from Dynamite Entertainment. It's Lilo and Stitch, issue number 1. Lilo and Stitch, written by Greg Pak of Planet Hulk fame. And art on this is by Julia Giacomino. Had to keep looking so I can make sure I said it right. But basically, this is a Lilo and Stitch comic. My assumption is that it takes place after the first Lilo and Stitch movie, not the second one, and ignores the animated series as well. But there's a fresh alien invasion, and the people who are attacking are somehow attacking with Stitch's DNA, which just sounds like a fun time. I definitely grew up as a Disney kid, and it is all nostalgia that's got this high on my reading pile, especially in a stacked week. But I'm excited to see it. So shout out to Greg Pak for Lilo and Stitch, issue number 1, out this week with a cover price of $3.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And again, it's 2 weeks in a row. We're starting it off with the indies. Let's go to another on the indie pull list. And this week that is Moon Man, issue number 1. Moon Man, written by a little known writer named Kyle Higgins and a little known musician named Scott Mescudi, aka Kid Cudi. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear of like a big name celebrity in comics, I kind of get excited about it because it's like, I wonder what they're bringing to the table. But I'm never really expecting much because it's not someone who is, well versed at scripting a comic book or anything like that. But the addition of Kyle Higgins to the creative team just gives me like ultimate faith in the project. Kyle Higgins, who wrote the first 2 years of Power Rangers lore for Boom Studios, who's been killing it with the massive verse and Radiant Black and Radiant Red and No One. There's been a million massive verse titles. And I got to read an advanced copy of Moon Man number 1, and the same things that I praise about Kyle Higgins writing in that first, 8 to 12 issues of Radiant Black that I read, as well as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Year 1, which I just got my hands on last month. Both of those are spectacular. And this Moon Man number 1 is starting off in the same vein. Like, yeah, it's giving you the action, but it's also giving you emotional storytelling in a way that's not melodramatic, but it's just a realistic look at these people. This book follows Ramon, who you could call a stand-in for Kid Cudi, but he basically goes out on a mission. He's like the lead astronaut on this mission to the moon. Something happens. They get lost for a little bit, but they come back and it's all good. And it's kind of like the origin reminds me a little bit of the Fantastic Four. But he comes back to his neighborhood trying to lay low after this space mission and slowly realize that he's got some superpowers and he's got questions that he's got to answer for himself about what he's going to do with those powers. Should he embrace the great responsibility that might come with them? Really, really enjoying this book through one issue, and I think you're going to enjoy this issue as well. Cover price on it is $3.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And that's it for the indie books on the pull list. So let's move over to the House of Ideas and see what's popping over at Marvel Comics. And the first book on my Marvel Comics pull list is from Chip Zdarsky. This is Avengers Twilight, issue number 2. Chip Zdarsky is writing this, and it's being drawn by Daniel Acuna. And dude, this book is dope. Honestly, it would have made the most excited spot if I knew it was coming out this week before I wrote the rest of the list down. Anyway, Avengers Twilight, you can call it The Dark Knight Returns. for Captain America, Steve Rogers. Tom Brevoort just did a column a couple weeks ago talking about how much this was inspired by like the hype of The Dark Knight 3. And that's how long this project has been in the works. But basically, Captain America hasn't been Cap for a minute. There was an event that sort of made everybody think differently about the Avengers and heroes. And Captain America, Steve Rogers, has sort of been living a life in the shadows, and something is going to draw him out. Which that sounds like such a familiar plot point, because again, we've seen it with The Last Ronin. We've seen it with The Dark Knight Returns, but it feels really awesome in this book. Definitely got me hooked through one issue. I'm excited to see how issue 2 turns out. It's got a cover price of $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And the next book on the Marvel Comics pull list is one of those anthologies I was telling you about. This is Marvel Voices Legends, issue number 1. This is basically their Black History Month anthology book. And we got a bunch of, creators of color writing stories with a bunch of characters of color. And honestly, I'm not really a big fan of these anthologies. DC's got one out this week as well. But there's always something that they do that makes me want to pick it up. For one, the creative teams on these stories are usually pretty good. In particular, this issue has an interview between Angelique Roche and Dennis Cowan, who you guys know I'm a pretty big fan of. So yes, I'm going to buy this entire issue, mostly for the Dennis Cowan interview, but I'm probably going to enjoy the art and stories inside as well. It's got a cover price of $5.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And last book on the Marvel Comics pull list this week is Wolverine, issue number 42, part 2 in the Sabretooth War, the bloodiest story in Wolverine history, apparently. I can't even lie. In issue 41, they absolutely took it there. So this is the violent book for all those kids trying to hide violent books from their parents. This is probably that one. And just conversely, parents, you should probably hide this one from your kids. Wolverine 42 out this week with a cover price of $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And that's it for the Marvel books on the pull list. If I stick to the list, those will cost me just $16. Did I tell you the indies will cost me $8? So we're at $24 so far this week. Before we move over to the biggest in the big two, to me, DC Comics, let's see what we got going on. The first book on my DC Comics pull list is the Batman Superman World's Finest Annual for 2024. Anyway, it's the first annual this series has seen. But this, I dropped World's Finest from my pull list just because I kept buying it and not reading it. This annual is going to be a one-shot story. It's not even so much the story that I care about, the A story. The reason I'm buying this book is because there's going to be a backup in it written by Stephanie Williams featuring Bumblebee. And Stephanie Williams has just been one of the writers that I've just really enjoyed following her work as of late. She had, a ton of work over with Nubia at DC, but she's done like some Moon Girl. She was doing Marvel Infinity Comics. She was doing a lot of cool work. And I think this story is going to be awesome as well. So Batman Superman World's Finest, the annual. I'm paying $4.99 for the cover A just for that backup story. Now, the next book on the DC Comics pull list this week is the Batman and Robin 2024 annual. This, I've been enjoying Joshua Williamson's Batman and Robin run. I really enjoy the characterization of Damian. I love the character growth and the journey he's been on for the last 3 years that Joshua Williamson has been writing him. And I love watching their relationship. In this annual, Batman and Robin are being hunted by a group of mercenaries for some reason. This should be a nice, fun, one-off Batman and Robin story. So for that reason, I'm grabbing it with a cover price of $5.99. Grabbing cover A. And of course, let's get to the biggest item on my pull list this week, at least from a cost standpoint. This week, we are getting the release of DC Power issue number 1, or DC Power 2024 issue number 1. DC Comics actually did a DC Power celebration last year. This is DC Power 2023. They just collected it into a hardcover like last week. So if you want to grab this, you definitely can. But this is basically the same as the Marvel Voices anthology, but for DC, you get a bunch of creators of color writing for characters of color. And what's really dope about the DC Power book, especially this year's, is the creative teams. We've got a story by Brandon Thomas and Kari Randolph of Excellence fame. They're writing a Signal story. My man Edwin Galman, who is one of my favorite up-and-coming artists, who just happens to be a Black man. He's writing, I think he's got a Val Zod story written by John Ridley. There's a lot of really cool stuff that's going to be in this DC Power anthology. And despite my feelings on DC kind of just paying lip service to these characters a lot of the time, whatever. This will be a cool anthology with some nice up and coming creative talent that you're going to want to check out and maybe follow them to like other works that they're doing. But DC Power 2024, issue number 1. Cover price on this one is $9.99, which is a lot, but it's going to be a square bound book with a bunch of pages, whatever. I'm grabbing cover A. And, oh, by the way, in that one, we get N.K. Jemisin and Jamal Campbell returning to do an epilogue to, keep wanting to call it Firepower, Far Sector. They're returning to do an epilogue to Far Sector. That's going to be worth checking out. I haven't seen Jamal Campbell on interiors in a minute, and that's probably why. So check this one out for that reason. All right, that's it for DC Power. Let's move on to Titans, Beast World, issue number 6. As far as I know, this is the last issue of Beast World. I think it's a 6-issue event. I told you guys last week that if I could find issues 2, 3, and 4, then I would buy issue 5 when it came out. And thankfully, I was able to find them all. So I've got all of Titans, Beast World. Now I get to just binge read it as one event, leading up to the whole House of Brainiac thing going on this summer. So Titans Beast World number 6, the event finale, I think. Cover price on this one is also $5.99. I'm grabbing cover A. Yo, DC, these prices are out of control. Why are these so expensive? Anyway, last book on the DC Comics pull list is the Trinity Special, issue number 1. Now, I'm on the fence about this one. I honestly might drop it from the pull list, but this is reprinting all of the, I guess, big appearances of Trinity, who is Wonder Woman's daughter. Wonder Woman, or Trinity, hasn't really played a significant role in the Wonder Woman comics so far. She debuted back in Wonder Woman 800, which Tom King wrote before relaunching Wonder Woman with issue number 100, or excuse me, number 1. But since he's been writing Wonder Woman, they've been doing these backup stories featuring the Trinity, which is basically the Super Sons babysitting Wonder Woman's daughter. Those backup stories are being reprinted in this issue as well. And there's also going to be a new story written by Tom King with art by Daniel Sampere, kind of teasing the future of this new character, Trinity. So if you've been reading Wonder Woman, if you already have Wonder Woman 800 and all those other Wonder Woman issues, probably not a reason to go in and buy this whole issue for a bunch of reprints. But since I don't have Wonder Woman 800 and, I'm curious about this character, I'm probably going to buy it. Cover price on that is $5.99. I'm going to grab cover A. And that's it for the DC Comics on the pull list. If I stick to the list, those will cost me $33 because DC Comics are expensive. And my grand total this week will be $57, which puts me $7 over budget. Now, I'm not tripping because next week I've got a little bit less. And there was one week this month where I only spent like $20. So it's not breaking the bank, but still, I try not to go over $50 in a given week, because if I'm buying that many comics, I'm probably not reading that many comics before the next week's new comic book day. So anyway, all that said, there is another book on the radar that I'm looking out for. You probably should too. This, from Steve Fox and Bernard Chang, is Dead X-Men issue number 1. Now, Dead X-Men is following the X-Men that were killed at last year's Hellfire Gala, or I don't know, earlier. Again, it was last year. It happened in 2023. But anyway, following the X-Men that were killed at the Hellfire Gala. If you don't remember who they were, don't worry. Most people don't either. But anyway, you get to have a little tease to see, oh, snap. Who are these people? How are they going to be used? How are they being resurrected? What's their role in the Fall of X? I fell off of the Fall of X. Like, I'm reading the Fall of the House of X and Rise of the Powers of 10. I'm still reading X-Men proper and X-Force, but I decided I am not buying these like one-off miniseries that kind of loosely tie into the overall story. I just decided to just do a hard cutoff. And that's why I'm not sold on buying this one. But one of the exceptions I made to that rule last year was that 4-issue Jean Grey miniseries, which was written by Louise Simonson and had art by Bernard Chang. And now Bernard Chang is on art for this book as well. So I know if nothing else, it's going to look amazing. I heard good things about Steve Fox doing Dark X-Men, I guess a few months ago. I don't know. But again, because I'm just kind of tired of all these constant miniseries that they're trying to throw out for the fall of X, I kind of want to just boycott this one just off rip. But again, Bernard Chang is dope. And so that's why I'm even interested in this book with a cover price of $4.99. Let me know if you're grabbing it. And by the way, let me know what you're most excited about on the pull list. Gotta say thanks to all of you guys for just all the support. This channel's been growing a lot lately. We are right around the corner from our 10,000 subscriber milestone. Once we reach it, we're going to do some giveaways, which will be fun. We just relaunched the Comics Are Dope podcast. And thank you guys for bearing with me. I don't know. YouTube's got this thing where you share your podcast feed. I didn't realize it was going to make like a whole new video for all these podcast episodes that we've done already. So I've like buried you guys in audio only podcast posts. My bad. Starting this Thursday, we will be 1-to-1 with new episodes of the Comics Are Dope podcast, starting with the debut of my interview with Christopher Priest. Now, if you don't want to wait for that interview to come out in 3 parts, you can join the channel family down below. They've got full access to the full 3-hour conversation in video format. So shout out to you guys for supporting the channel and making everything here possible. I'm going to see you guys in another video real soon. Until then, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.